Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, we are on Love 99.5 FM. Affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions, we are on ATL and Castle FM in Cape Coast. We are on Jubilee and Sun City Radio in Keta. We are on Kaliawo FM in Akachi. We are live on Twitter Spaces. We are on Facebook, myjoyonline.com. The Midday News is sponsored by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. This afternoon, German Ambassador Daniel Kroll charges the government of Ghana to live up to expectation in the fight against illegal mining as Ghana marks Green Day today.
There's planting trees and there's also deforestation. We also need to join forces in fighting deforestation in the country and to preserve the natural reserves of any country.
We're live at the German ambassador's residence where former chair of the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, is guest of honor at the tree planting exercise.
And I'm very happy that Professor Frimpong Boateng, a known fighter for environmental protection in this country, is joining me here today.
Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo has reiterated government's commitment toward protecting the environment as he calls on Ghanaians to plant more trees in support of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources target of planting 10 million trees today.
Government will therefore continue to explore all avenues to enhance our forest cover through afforestation and reforestation programs and protect our natural resources.
Also this afternoon, industry expects Ghana's economy to go through a tough phase in the coming months, but hopeful of a stable business environment next year.
My advice is that we should brace up for a difficult period for this year. And of course, it's the beginning of good things to come.
Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors backs IMF's calls for government to review gold for oil program, saying it is restricting its members' ability to operate in the market.
None of the BDCs or those BDCs who have paid their license fee did not necessarily pay for a license fee to be cornered only a percentage of the market. They want to be given the needed right climate.
And then we build up to our latest hotline documentary, A Nation That Begs. We focus on the age-old debt crisis.
New African is ready to fight his own battle and show that after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs.
Thought that we could borrow our way through debt, and here we are today as though we needed another epic like yesterday.
And then much later, Supreme Court urges Chief Justice to investigate Court of Appeal Judge Emmanuel Ankama for controversial ruling, which the court says he was biased against one side. A registrar of his court has meanwhile been sacked by the Judicial Service for fraudulently forging as many as 30 court orders. We have details in sports.
One final game to go with the title undecided and Hearts facing relegation. We preview the final day of the Ghana Premier League.
And in our last installment of our Remembrance series on Professor Ama Ata-Adu.
All the days are not equal, said the old village wall.
We stay glued as we bring you extracts of her poem, The Days, read by Ghanaian filmmaker Akwafa Ejani. That and more in this afternoon's edition of the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for your company. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. We are Joy News. In our very first story, German Ambassador Daniel Kroll has charged the government of Ghana to live up to expectation in the fight against illegal mining and by extension tackling climate change. President Akufo-Addo, as part of activities dedicated today to planting more trees and greening Ghana, has invited all members of the diplomatic community in the country to join Ghana's green agenda. Speaking at a tree planting exercise at the gardening of the German ambassador's residence, Daniel Kroll says all nations must strive to tackle climate change in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
We need all steps possible. Of course, there's planting trees and there's also deforestation. We also need to join forces in fighting deforestation in the country and to preserve the natural reserves of any country. I'm very happy that a very eminent person of this country accepted my invitation to join me here today. And I'm very happy that Professor Frimpong Boateng a known fighter for environmental protection in this country, is joining me here today. The other day I was at Kumasi at KNUST University, and I was asked, whom can you think of when you would like to suggest a role model for Ghanaians? And I think Professor Frimpong Boateng is certainly one of them.
Let me bring in my colleague Blessed Soga, who is live at the German ambassador's residence, joins us with details. So Blessed, obviously Daniel Kroll is elated at the presence of Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng. Let's talk about his presence and what exactly he's been up to there.
So there's a background to this because Professor Frimpong Boateng spent a lot of his time working years in Germany as a heart surgeon, and of course that explains why he has good relations with the Germans. And as part of activities to mark the Green Ghana Day today, the German ambassador to Ghana, Daniel Kroll, decided to make him the guest of honor. And he explains that that's based on his lived experience, the fact that everything that Professor Frimpong Boateng has achieved in life is based on merit, quote merit, that's the word he uses. We are not able to explain why his decision to be very much fixated on Professor Frimpong Boateng this year, but it explains that given the fact that this is someone who served as the chair of the former chair of the Inter-Ministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining, and also as former Environment, Science and Technology Minister, he best fits for today's event. So they both decided to plant a tree, and that's a cocoa tree, which is planted at the embassy gardens of the German ambassador. And afterwards, Professor Frimpong Boateng has been touching on a number of issues, also adding his voice to the need for the presidency and by extension the government to stay committed to the UN SDGs that advocate for tackling climate change and by extension the fight against illegal mining.
And when you invited me, I reminded you about the things that I learned or saw. In every German city, you find a belt of forest linking various suburbs of the city. For example, in Germany, you could walk from, say, Adabraka to the Central Business District, across to Osu or somewhere, all through forests that have been laid in every city. So everywhere is cool and it's very commendable. You find young and old cycling, jogging, and at times walking off into some restaurants that are established in these forest areas. And so this is something that I wish that we could do in Ghana, planting trees, maintaining our forests, and then leaving gardens in our towns and our cities so that people could go there for recreation and for health reasons.
Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng there. Well, President Akufo-Addo says his government remains committed to the protection of the environment and will continue to explore all avenues in ensuring the Green Ghana project achieves its purpose. According to him, environmental protection and preservation contributes positively in climate change in the country and should be the responsibility of every citizen. He's been speaking at this year's Green Ghana Day tree planting exercise at the University of Ghana.
Government will therefore continue to explore all avenues to enhance our forest cover through afforestation and reforestation programs and protect our natural resources through community-based management and conservation initiatives. Today, your contribution is to step out, take a seedling, plant it, and make sure it grows. I encourage each and every one of you, my fellow Ghanaians, and indeed all persons living in Ghana, young and old, men and women, urban and rural, to join me on this historic day in this national tree planting.
That's President Akufo-Addo. We can hear from the Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abu-Baidoo, who's urging all Ghanaians to step out and plant a tree today.
23 million of the trees planted in the first two editions of the Green Ghana Day have survived. And this year, we have the opportunity to add 10 million and more trees to this number. This 10 million target will allow us to devote more resources to nurture the maturing trees planted in the last two editions, in addition to those to be planted today. The Ministry of Lands, through the Forestry Commission, will continue to provide support for the nurturing of these trees. While we do so, we entreat each and every one of you to take responsibility for nurturing these trees in your homes, offices, and communities for them to grow to maturity. As is customary, each Green Ghana Day, we have made adequate seedlings available at the various offices of the Forestry Commission.
That's the Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abu-Baidoo. Well, the minority in Parliament say government must ensure that the Green Ghana Day events do not become an avenue to enrich a few. According to the Deputy Ranking Member on the Lands and Forestry Committee, Alassane S. Suhini, such programs in the past have been used to siphon money from the state. He's been speaking in Parliament as Ghana marks the 3rd edition of Green Ghana Day.
Initiatives such as this, good as they are intended, do not fall victim of corruption or do not become a victim of corruption. It does not become an establishment that is used to siphon money from the taxpayer. Mr. Speaker, and this is important because climate finance has to be optimized for impact and effectiveness, and the way to do that is to ensure that strategies are put in place to change finance and to ensure that finance that is meant for climate change and its mitigation and its adaptation are not misapplied.
Let me bring in our parliamentary affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante there. Well, there was a response from the minister on this particular concerns raised by the minority. Well, what exactly was it?
Emefa, Samuel Abu-Baidoo is promising to make public the accounts of the Green Ghana Committee, which is under his ministry, public. He says the 2021 and 2022 accounts of that committee have been audited. He's been assuring Parliament that this committee and this Green Ghana initiative is all about protecting Ghana and limiting the harsh effects of climate change. It is nothing about corruption, but the persons in charge are really people of credibility.
Mr. Speaker, let me use this opportunity to thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for your leadership and for your support in this endeavour. And Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to observe that all the trees you planted on the premises of Parliament are doing very well. The pundits tell us that from 1900 to date, we have lost about 80% of our forest cover. This calls for aggressive afforestation and reforestation. And Mr. Speaker, the Green Ghana Day is one of the efforts government and the country is making to restore the lost forest cover of our country.
Well, Kweku, we know that the Speaker is leading the House to plant trees. What's the update there?
Well, the Speaker just planted his tree. The Deputy Speakers have also done the same. The Speaker has a message for all Ghanaians that the day the last tree die is the day the last person will also die. And so as persons living in this country, persons must be much more into this tree planting exercise and must do their best to plant trees around their own environment. And so he has just led Parliament, the leadership and the staff of Parliament to plant trees around the precincts of Parliament.
That's a parliamentary affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante. We'll turn our attention to the economy, and the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce is predicting tough times for businesses in the coming months, but expects the situation to improve next year. The nation is currently under an IMF program geared towards ensuring some economic stability. CEO Mark Abuaji believes the program's impact will not be as immediate as many have been anticipating.
The deal was the only way out of our economic woes. But I also think that some of the impacts may not be immediate.
Wow.
In the sense that I have a feeling it will get worse before it gets better.
Interesting.
The reason being that some or most of the conditions were preconditions. They were offloaded, the prior actions that we have to meet before we get the money. Talk of the taxes, and now the automatic adjustment of utility tariffs. These are all part of the things that were considered before the money was given to us. So on that score, we realized that that aspect of cost of doing business is going up. But I've seen some stability when it comes to the exchange rate. We were expecting that at least the cedi will put up a strong performance against the major trading currencies just by the announcement.
There was a flip-flop. Yes. It went up strongly. Yes, it has recovered, slowed down a little bit.
It's depreciating a bit. But I'm very optimistic that the economy will rebound, but it will take some time. So my advice is that we should brace up for a difficult period for this year. Of course, if you look at the GDP growth of 1.6, as proposed by even the IMF and the World Bank, it surely shows that economic activity for this year will slow.
Yeah.
And of course, it's the beginning of good things to come.
That's the CEO of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce. We can focus on the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors also. They've been focusing on the Gold for Oil program, and we know that the IMF has asked government to review that particular program. The Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors say failure to undertake such a review could spell doom for its members. Dr. Patrick Ofori, CEO.
If they try to continue with that, it may have other repercussions. It's definitely is going to have a toll on NPA, the regulators' revenue generation, because none of the BDCs or those BDCs who have paid their license fee did not necessarily pay for a license fee to be cornered only a percentage of the market. They want to be given the needed, the right climate to conduct their business.
And it's a fact that after more than 60 years of unbridled borrowing, Ghana is back again to the surgical theatre, receiving treatment from the IMF. Joy News data analyst Isaac Kofieje takes us on a historical ride tracking Ghana's over 6 decades of ballooning public debt stock. That's in our latest Hotline documentary, A Nation That Begs. Here are excerpts.
New African is ready to fight his own battle and show that after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs.
Right from 1965, when Ghana first approached the IMF under the watch of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, one of the reasons we cited was debt unsustainability or ballooning public debt.
Historically, we always hit a roadblock where we just have to go and beg our creditors to forgive us.
By the time we went to Sinchi and looked at the policies and the rest, we realized, that it was going to be difficult. The development partners also decided that, they didn't think we could handle this problem ourselves.
Suddenly, we were facing major challenges on our balance of payments, our currency went into a steep decline, interest rates went out of the window, inflation, all the indices that have been worked on. And that is what basically forced us to go to seek the assistance of the fund.
We thought that we could borrow our way through debt. And here we are today, as though we needed another epic like yesterday.
A Nation That Begs airs on Joy News Channel Monday, 12 June at 8:30 p.m. and on the Super Morning Show at 8:30 a.m. same day. You want to catch that, A Nation That Begs, a Joy News hotline documentary. Now, a Court of Appeal judge, Emmanuel Ankama, is to be investigated by the Chief Justice regarding how he handled a case involving the estate of a deceased pastor while he was a High Court judge at Tema. A 5-member Supreme Court panel with Justice Victor Jones Doche presiding called for the investigation, insisting the conduct of the judge and the registrar, Sebastian Agbo, has the potential to affect the image of the judiciary. The Judicial Service has in a statement announced that the registrar has been dismissed. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akable joins me in studio with more on this. Joseph, so what more do we know about the case Justice Ankama handled while at the High Court?
And so following the death of one Reverend Emmanuel Dogbaji, a dispute arose as to who should administer his estate. The matter ended up at the Tema High Court, where Justice Ankama was presiding. Now, documents were filed to prevent the proposed administrators of the estate from getting permission to administer it. Justice Ankama is said to have struck out this process even though it was not listed for hearing, and failed to give the parties in whose favor they were issued a hearing. Justice Doche, in his validatory judgment, ruled that the court breached the rules of natural justice, as the evidence on the record showed that the case was heard on a blind side of these individuals.
Well, the Judicial Service, we know, has already sacked the registrar of the Tema High Court.
Yes, the Judicial Secretary in the statement says that the registrar of the Tema Land Court, that is Sebastian Agbo, has been dismissed for fraudulently preparing 30 court orders, and so he has been sacked.
Well, the court has some concerns also about how the properties of the deceased were valued.
In fact, a number of them are listed in the letters of administration. The court says they were undervalued and deceptive. So, Emefa, for example, a hospital at Obuasi was valued at 60,000 cedis. A school at Obuasi was also valued at 35,000 cedis. And the house of the deceased at Tema, the whole house on the land, was valued at 30,000 cedis. The Supreme Court has, as a result of this valuation, referred all the parties in the case, including the lawyers who filed the letters of administration, they want them to be investigated as well in terms of the probe that will be undertaken by the Chief Justice.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Joseph Akablea, our legal affairs correspondent. It's time for a quick breather here on the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra, in Kumasi on Love 99.5 FM. We're on a number of affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We're on Twitter Spaces, we're on Facebook and myjoyonline.com. The Midday News is proudly sponsored by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. And we've been hearing from the German ambassador, Daniel Kroll, who is charging the government of Ghana to live up to expectation in the fight against illegal mining as Ghana marks Green Day today. When we return from the break, we have sport. And in our last installment of our Remembrance series on Professor Amatadu, we'll bring you extracts of her poem, The Days, read by Ghanaian filmmaker Akofa Ejiani.
All the days are not equal, said the old village wall.
Imagine say water wake up at dawn. You know both. You know chop. Where it vanish for your area for 2 weeks. You not get one drop safe inside your tank.
Hey.
Hajia, our life was in dangerous. Only our neighbor get water with water tank.
Water tank?
Yes, water tank. Mamma mia, that water tank get meter for checking water level. That water tank be fine past Kumasi Selenium. That water tank be tough like Ghana Army. That water tank, they carry water pepe, so say some no go left inside the supply tank. What a tank! As my boss, Mr. Poncho, go talk.
Beautiful, durable, with water level indicator and accurate volume of water. Water tank. What a tank! By Duraplast.
Thanks for staying with us. Time for sports. Michelle, what are we looking at?
Emefa, after 6 p.m. on Sunday this weekend, Hearts of Oak could be relegated from the Ghana Premier League. Meanwhile, Midiama and Bichim United will be looking for a first league title, with both within touching distance heading into the final day of the Ghana Premier League season. Joy Sports editor Fentiu Tariu Fentiu has more.
Well, the real focus will be at Midiama, where they just need to avoid defeat at home to Tamale City to win their first ever GPL title. On paper, it looks very straightforward, given Midiama having lost a game at home all season. But they will be wary of the threat from a Tamale City side that is threatened by relegation, and a defeat could send them to Division 1. In many ways, Midiama would feel football owes them this particular one, having been top of the Ghana Premier League table and on course to win the title on 2 previous occasions when the Anasek Bose and COVID-19 scuppered the 2018 and 2020 seasons, respectively. Bichim United, of course, are the other team lurking in the shadow. 3 points behind Midiama heading into the last day. They will win the title only if they beat Adriana Stars in Doma and Tamale City win in Takwa. It's a far-fetched scenario, but crazier things have happened in football, and we'll be keeping a keen eye on that. At the bottom, one more club will be relegated alongside Kotoku Royals and King Faisal. Great Olympics, Hearts of Oak, Tamale City, Legon Cities, and Karela United all have a mathematical chance of being relegated. The match here is pretty straightforward, really. If one of those clubs loses their game and all the others win, that club is going down for sure. And if all the clubs involved record the same results, then it's Great Olympics that would be relegated.
Game plan will have more from 1:15 p.m.
We can't wait, and I'm sure it's the Champions League. We are repping our jersey tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow from 10 a.m. at the
Aviation Social Center. And even though I'm not supporting any of the teams, I'm looking forward to the performance of Burna Boy.
Yep.
Hello everyone, this is Burna Boy, and I got some big news. I'll be performing at the UEFA Champions League final kickoff show by Pepsi. And you can get involved if you have ball skills like Leah or dance skills like Vinny. Come on, let's go!
Well, so we are looking forward to that. We'll rep our jerseys tomorrow at the Aviation Social Center. Come and let's chill. Now, with less than 3 weeks to the crucial by-elections, the Asin North constituency has been busy with earth-moving machines as government races against time to complete all road projects ahead of the polls. Your election headquarters has been tracking the progress of work made so far. Richard Kujonyako is our man on the ground. Here's his report.
earth-moving equipment harming their way throughout the constituency. Inner town roads in the Asan North constituency are receiving attention. The attention some of these projects never got months and years back. Here at Asan Breku, some electricity poles have to make way for the road construction. In their place, new ones are being fixed by the ECG for expansion of the road network. A beautifully constructed astroturf here at Asan Breku stares at residents as it awaits commissioning. It's a cocktail of reaction from residents.
If you look at the emergence of this development that is going on right now, you cannot see anything but to attribute it to the by-election. Prior to the 2020 election, we had this same contractor come on site with his machines, and just after the 2020 election, when the then MP, Honorable Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah, who was on the ticket of the MPP, lost the election, we never saw these machines again.
If you can see the excavators, they have been there from 2020, and then if you go to the AstroTurf, it started last year. If you go to the one district, one factory, the same thing last year. And if you see the pace of work in some of them, some of the contractors have money, so their work almost goes quickly.
Richard Kwejenyakon, Joy News, Asan Breku.
And it's time for the National Science and Maths Quiz. They came, they saw, and they were rather conquered. That's the story of the self-taught students of Bia Senior High Technical School during the qualifying stages of the National Science and Maths Quiz in the Western North region. Without a dedicated teacher and close to no reference material, the students took charge of their own destiny and prepared for the competition. My colleague Michael Ashali has the rest of the story.
You've been learning all day long, waited for this moment too.
An honest confession of sleepless nights by students of Bia SHTS preparing to contest in the Western North qualifiers. But the contest proved to be a very difficult hurdle.
Yes, Bia.
Recessive.
That is incorrect. Bia, a rectangle with adjacent sides congruent is a square.
It's a false statement.
That is incorrect.
Navigating the path to representing their school proved to be a formidable challenge as the students encountered numerous hurdles along the way. Without the guidance of a teacher, the contestants were left to their own devices, taking turns to teach themselves.
We don't have menu materials that you'll be learning, so usually we teach ourselves. Our master was quite busy.
We didn't even know that we would come for the contest, so it was impromptu.
In a disheartening turn of events, their efforts culminated in a score that defied expectations.
So at the end of the contest, these are the scores. Bia had -10 points and St. Joseph Senior High School had 30 points.
Despite finishing with a negative score, the contestants showcased the true essence of perseverance and determination.
We've tried, but it didn't work out.
Bia, alpha particles are highly ionizing.
True statement.
That is correct.
For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
Well, and that's that National Science and Maths Quiz. Now, all the fingers are not equal, but that's not the only variation in life. Another disparity in life is seen in the days of the week, with each day serving as a completely different experience. In the last shot of our Remembrance series on Professor Ama Ata Edu, we bring you extracts of her poem, The Days, read by Ghanaian filmmaker and culture activist Akofa Ejiani.
Some days are full of ice. Other days are just mouth. Some days crawl like snails. Other days run like hair. Each day has hours of 10, 10 and 4. But each day is different in one way or more. All the days are not equal, said the old village wall.
Well, throughout her life, Amata Edu fought for women's empowerment. Here's a bite of that.
I am a feminist. A feminist is just somebody, not necessarily a woman, who believes in the potential of women to get to the highest possible level of development, given the facilities a society makes available. I mean, just as any man. And being a feminist is not necessarily being a woman feminist. Feminism is an ideology like socialism, like Pan-Africanism. So, a man too can be.
And that's how we wrap up today's edition of the Midday News. You're on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. I am Emefa Apawu. We have Living Word with Pastor Mensel Tabil up next. Have a